Thanks for doing this, Jamie.
It's a pleasure.
I have been wanting to do this for so long now. I think we spoke about this at Dubai Active. That was the first time I said, I want you on the podcast.
It would have been, wouldn't it? Which is coming up to a year soon.
Yeah.
Huh? Time flies.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Or is it just that you're too busy?
Oh, no, well, you're the one flying around the world. I've been here for 10 months right now. Yeah.
No, but I think the journey that you embarked, the BOX12 journey has been fucking amazing. I mean, what you've been able to achieve in the last, 24 months, nobody could have imagined. I'm not sure if you could have imagined that it'll be this big.
No. No, I don't think so. I think, and of course, the last few years have been difficult for everyone. So I think when you compound that factor as well, we're proud of what we've achieved, and it's a cliche, but it feels like we're just starting as well. And so it's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, I remember seeing, and because I've been a part of, somehow seen how you've grown.
Yeah.
I still remember that first drawing of yours.
Yeah.
When you were doing your first center, and I saw that drawing.
Yeah.
And how you saw this as BOX12 and looked at it initially as a franchise model, and then looked at it being something else.
Yeah.
But over a period of time, I think the hallmark of a true entrepreneur is you adapt really fast, right? You started this pre-COVID.
Yeah. Yes.
Most people would have given up, right?
Yeah. Do you know it's? I think a huge contributing factor to where BOX12 is today to where it was 3 years ago is the 20 years prior to that, and having your back against the wall a number of times, being able to, I think I'm a little bit different in this sense that as soon as my back is put against the wall, I get turned on by the idea of that, and then I go into action, and it's almost a perverse way of looking at it. Often, your back's against the wall, there's negativity and stress surrounding it, and your natural reaction would be to actually, drop into a cave, into a hole, hide, blame life and all that kind of stuff. And as we all know, that doesn't create a better outcome, but it's a natural reaction to it. And I think that the moment with BOX12 when John and I had put our money into it, we'd built this thing from nothing, and then within 3 months it was just stopped by a global pandemic that no one could foresee. There was a moment in time then when I remember we were shell-shocked by it, as most people were. You're kind of like, what does it actually mean? You're trying to gather yourself. It took about 48 hours for us, and we speak to each other 4 times a day. Like literally, we're always conversing about things. I don't think we spoke to each other for 2 days solid, because we were both just trying to figure out what on earth we're going to do next. And then that part of me kicked in that just said, right, okay, back against the wall, probably like never before. And then there was this rubbing of the hands together of motivation to go, right, let's take this fight head on. And I remember ringing John, it was on a Friday evening, and I said to John, right, my exact words were, get your head out your arse. We've got a meeting at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. We're going to rip up everything that we said we were going to do, and we're just going to start what we've got again, because and we're going to go at it as hard as we possibly can, because everybody else is feeling like we're feeling. Certainly the startups are at the early phase, and every day that we can work hard from this point, harder than we've ever worked, and every day that everybody else is licking their wounds, we're getting a day on, we're getting a day head start on, a week head start on, and then from that point, we had this project board that had been built for the last 2.5 years. We just ripped it up because it was no longer valid in the world that we were then living in overnight. And we just started. We didn't know where we were going, which is the first time I've ever been in business and didn't really know what we were aiming to achieve. We just went hard. We ran down blind alleys. We tried this, we did that. But it was that kind of, I just innately feel there is a distinct opportunity when shit hits the fan. It's how you approach it, and that's what we did. And John trusted me to come on this journey of let's just go, when everybody else was going, what do we do now? And I just believe that back against the wall, I'm coming out fighting attitude, which was just learned over the years of being put in that position, it was a distinct factor in us being able to have this conversation and talk about where BOX12 is now.
Funny you say this. You must be wondering why I have a smirk on my face. Exactly what John said. And he
Okay,
said, yeah.
Is it really?
It's fucking...
Is it really?
Yeah, and I can't forget this because he said the exact same words, you know.
Get your head out your ass. Is that literally it's crude, but it's basically, it was what I said. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And I think it takes me to this point, you know, about the DNA that entrepreneurs have, right? Where, you know, you see opportunity in every possible calamity that comes in your way. Now, is it something that you've developed over a period of time, or is it your inherent quality even when you are not an entrepreneur? Because I know people who are entrepreneurs at heart. It doesn't mean you need to do your own business, but even when you work for somebody else, you think the exact same way.
Yes.
Is that how you're programmed?
I think it's a bit of both. When I think about what I was like as a kid, I always, in the things that I was passionate about, I wanted to be the best I could possibly be at it. So knockbacks wouldn't knock me back because I had a vision for myself as a kid. And it was mainly sports focused and stuff like that. And then when I got into kind of work and then building businesses and what I understand now that I've only more recently understood about myself is my drivers to do what I do come from problem solving, inspiring others to be better, and so that's why there's that, when there's a challenge placed in front of me, that I just see a massive opportunity in solving the problem for me and for others. And then the feeling that you get when you come out of the problem and you've actually flipped it on its head and it's now a raging success, whatever that might be, and you can all then look back on, do you remember that moment when we were all feeling emotionally upset, low, demotivated, stressed, all of that, and then we got our heads together when the chips were down and we were up against it, and we took that step forwards when emotionally everything was telling you to not do that. And we did it. We did it together. Now look at it. And they're the greatest successes, and they're the ones that give you the most. And so I'm not sure if that answers the direct question, but is it in my DNA? I think in part, yes, but definitely through experience over the years of putting myself in uncomfortable positions and then having to deal with them in the best possible way. If you put yourself in those positions enough times and realize that if you're willing to take the challenge on, that the outcome way outweighs the challenge while you're in the middle of the challenge, it then allows you to, when you're facing something, be positive and entrepreneurial about it, rather than just see the problem. There's an opportunity in that. But that's a confidence thing, isn't it, over time, that I think you do learn.
Self-belief.
Yeah, I think so. But I think for me, I think I had a level of self-belief, or my drivers allowed me to put myself in uncomfortable positions to back myself to come out of them in the right fashion. And I think that the learning experiences of that to then have practical processes later in life to deal with challenges. You learn those because you're not born with those, you just learn, but you're born with this, I think, this innate fight in you. I think there's some people don't mind the challenge innately. And I think I'm probably one of those. I think I'm one of those at heart, but and I think I've just learnt behaviour by putting myself in uncomfortable positions. Excuse me. Yeah.
Jamie, one of the things I've seen about, this is something I've also, when I speak to people about, when we discuss, when you come up in any of the discussion, you're also very strategic in your thought process. So I would say, and this is something, obviously because John was on the pod before this, so I have a lot of context to things.
Yeah.
Before you come up with an idea, you would have thought about it 500 times in your head. All pros, cons, plus, minus. But you also still, I see one thing about you, you still have that streak of, let's jump into it. Take that risk as well, but still think about it. How do you balance these two? Because they're two extreme ends of, of the spectrum.
Yeah. Yes, it's really interesting. When I will sit and think all of the time about things, and it's not a torment. At one point in my life, that would be a torment because I could never let anything go. There's a balance in that nowadays where I will, just because I'm not sitting at my laptop, it doesn't mean I'm not working. I'm always, but I enjoy it, and so it's not a detractor when I'm thinking about things all of the time and considering optimizing a situation or strategically thinking about what the next move is. But I definitely will I'll play devil's advocate as best as I can to my own ideas. That comes from experience in my previous business when I was young, wet behind the ears. I was so passionate and enthusiastic about where I believed we should be going as a company. People believed in me, followed me on that journey, supported the company and myself on that journey. But there would be times when I would lead people the wrong way. Now, it's not intentionally. It was just that I was so enthusiastic.
But doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter.
And off I go.
Yeah.
Now, I felt the responsibility of leading people in the wrong direction and then having to sort of take some back steps. And there are some downsides to doing that. So when me and John got together in this business, I'm very mindful that I'm very mindful that I can inspire others to follow my path. I'm very mindful of that. And whilst it's a strength, it's also a responsibility that I'm very aware of. And as I've got older, and the people that are kind of around me in business, they've got families and responsibilities. So I feel the burden of leadership more than I ever have done. And so I'm still a risk taker. But I'm not reckless in it. I'll just check myself against.
It's very interesting you said this, because now I can actually now figure out what John was saying. So this thing of thinking, overthinking, and doing everything is come from the fact that you can inspire people, and you think now it's my responsibility before I start inspiring people to do A, B, or C. I better be sure that A, B, and C are right. You can't get it right all the time.
No.
But and that's the context. I understand that now.
And I think the thing is I fundamentally care about people.
Yeah.
That's what my foundation. And I want people to do well. And if I can influence them, even at the detriment of myself, but they win because of that, I'm comfortable with that. And it's not completely selfless, of course it isn't, because if I'm supporting somebody and they're doing well, I'm feeling good about the fact that they're doing well. So it's not a completely selfless act. And I think that when I play devil's advocate to my own thoughts, it's just to protect myself, but also other people. But I don't want to lose the enthusiasm and the drive. So getting that balance right is key. And then if we do go down the wrong path, I'm able to, at that point, be okay with myself because I did check myself. I did check myself. But there was definitely a path to get to where my head is at now. And you know how people come into your life and they just say little things and you remember that.
Yeah.
You know, I lost the last business, terrible period of my life, 10 years of hard work. I felt I'd let everybody down who'd followed me on that journey, including my best mate, who's my business partner at the time, still best mates, and we've been best man for each other. So, you know, we held on to that through that difficult period of time. But I came out of that with all the wounds and the scars, as you'd imagine you would when you've failed, in inverted commas, and which is an interesting thing in itself. But a mate of mine who'd been on that journey, he hadn't been in the business, he was just a friend of mine, but he's an intelligent guy. About a year or so after I'd lost the business, he just said to me, we were talking about business and stuff, and he just said, mate, you know, the Jamie that I used to know. And I was like, well, this is interesting, what's he going to say here? He was like, well, you know, the Jamie I used to know, he was a risk taker.
Yeah.
He you know, and he's the opposite to me. And he just said, I just think you need a little bit of that back in your life. And he was a bit of a passing comment, and I walked away from him going, hey, what are you waiting for? Because in 2 years I'd had all these sort of different ideas and what I was going to do, and I was holding myself back from it. And he just said, yeah, I think you just need a bit of that back in your life. That's kind of what he said. And the fact that I'm bringing it up now shows you just that comment made a difference to me. And I was like, yeah, if I'm going to do what I want to do in life, I need to get a little bit of that back. But it was nothing. It was expected that I would be licking my wounds for a while, and I wanted to evaluate why I'd lost the business and what it meant. How did I act throughout the 10 years that we had some great successes, but then we ultimately lost the business? Why? And I felt responsible for leading the organisation, so I just wanted to reflect on that. But then that little comment of I think you should have put a bit more risk back in your life. Where's the risk taker? You know, and so for me to go back to that, I just needed to make sure and protect myself that if I did go back in to leading people, holding that responsibility, that I kept to having their best interests at heart and mine. And how do I do that? It would be to play devil's advocate against, rip my own ideas apart. Don't just come up with this is what we should do, and then off we go, sell the dream, because people would follow me in that sense and be enthused and motivated by it, and then get there and realise all the problems that I probably could have foreseen if I'd have really checked myself against it in the first instance. I've heard someone call it a pre-mortem. You know?
Yeah.
You know, when something bad's happened, you then look back and review it.
Yeah.
I review it before it's happened. That's how I do it. And it doesn't suffocate me. It doesn't stop me from taking risks or moving down paths that others might not see at that time or whatever. It doesn't stop me. It just means that the balance I feel is right. I can be comfortable that even if it goes wrong, I did everything I could at this point to negate the risks.
I mean, I always say this cost of innovation for an organization is its ability to handle and embrace failure.
Yes.
So if you can't do that, you have to understand whatever you do, as you could think as much as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, and it could still go wrong.
Yes.
But you, in your mind, know that when I started this journey, I took care of everything. I made sure I dotted the I's, crossed the T's. I said, you know what? Okay, let's look at A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then, then make sure that you're moving forward because you're taking a lot of people along with you.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel, as an entrepreneur, you're always responsible, like you said, there are people you lead, you're responsible for people. So if you run an organization which is about 1,000 people, 2,000 people, and then, eventually you're in a model where, say, your franchise, there are other people's businesses, the people have invested money, and you feel at some point of time guilty, and then you say, you know what, it's business, people have evaluated that risk. How do you fight this battle within yourself? And the reason I'm asking this question is more from an entrepreneur's perspective.
Yeah.
A lot of times we feel, and I've been there, I've been an entrepreneur, and I feel that, to do right by everybody, you can't do that. In your mind, you can try and do whatever best you can, but you can't always please everybody.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
For me, it's as long as my personal core values are correct, then I know I'm doing everything for the right reasons. So I will check myself against integrity, authenticity, unconditional doing things for others, and which in turn will support myself. So again, I'll make that point about the selflessness. Yes, there is an element of that, but it's all because I will benefit emotionally or materialistically. So there's, the balance is key. As long as I enter into any situation with the right and correct intentions, in line with my personal core values, which I can sleep at night with, then anything that happens after that, if it goes wrong, I know that I did it for the right reasons.
So what are those core values?
I mentioned them. Is that it's honesty, authenticity, integrity. They're key things for me. And if they're compromised, whether I compromise them, which is very rare, or if I do feel a business relationship or something is compromising them, then it's not for me. I won't go down that path for material gain because it's just not for me. So it's about, it's built on that. It's built on my intention is to have a positive impact on the people that are closest to me, and also to have a positive impact on the people that I just engage with flippantly at times. If my foundation is built around that, and I stay honest and true to that, because sometimes there are things that can come into your world that can compromise or ask a question of yourself, and there might be a new shiny bright thing over here, but you might have to compromise a bit of honesty or integrity or whatever it might be, and it'll pull you. But I'll check myself against it and be honest with myself, which is really difficult. As long as I'm doing that and I'm sticking back to that, if in 5 years' time I've led an organisation with those intentions to a particular place and it fails, I can always say you did it for the right reason.
Yeah.
And that's that. It doesn't mean I'm not going to feel hurt for the people who might have lost their jobs, or whatever it might be along that way, because I will do, because I'm a human and I care. But I'll be able to look my wife in the eye, my son in the eye, my friends in the eye, and everybody, and say I did it all built off the right intentions. And that allows me to then feel the responsibility of leadership, because I know I'm doing it for the right intentions. I mean,
and that's the reason a lot of people, anybody I speak to, and I've messaged you every time I meet somebody and we meet somebody in common, everybody has only good things to say about you. Having said that, so everybody will say, Jamie is wonderful to be around with, he's fun, he's good, and he loves what he does, passionate, gives you ideas. People say all that. But I've seen another side of you, which is also where I see a lot of people being evasive when they have to give bad news to people. You're not that kind of person. You can. So I always tell a lot of entrepreneurs, and the reason our listeners are typically going to be people who are budding entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times people feel I should not give the bad news, but I tell them it's better to give bad news than not to give the news. Yeah. So I would rather I tell people, pick up the phone. So if you pick up the phone and say, you know what, I can't do this for you, that's all right. But not picking up the phone is the challenge. And how do you master this? How do you master this of, this is possible, this is not possible, this can be done. And I've seen this you do with a lot of people, and nobody minds it because you have a reason, you're transparent.
Yeah.
And I remember this, this one incident where we were at Dubai Muscle Show. And it's a very small thing. I think Dickie, me, and we all were trying to fill up water in those bags, if you remember.
Yeah.
And Dickie had not slept for 2 or 3 days. And you actually lost it. And you told Dickie, you know what, go sleep and come back later.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than saying, you know what, he's not doing a good job, whatever, just Dickie, come in. Go get some sleep. Get 2-3 hours of sleep. Come back and we'll do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is, I find this difficult to do. I also find this very difficult to do, especially with people who you I'll give you an example. If I have to abuse Brent, it's very difficult. It's absolutely. I can abuse him on WhatsApp. I can't do it when he's face to face.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Right, I get your point. I think it's funny because there is a Funtime Frankie, Jamie, who just absolutely loves having a laugh to your hurt, situation. Like it's, you work. Life is difficult, and it can take chunks out of you. So
it's like you have a switch on, switch off button. I can tell you, 7 in the morning. I still remember this. I was telling John on the podcast. 7 in the morning, we came back. 9 o'clock, you were in the golf course.
Yeah,
we were on 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
But you were the first one to wake up, to get ready, and tell people, you know what, you had a good time.
Yeah.
But tomorrow morning, fucking get your asses there in time.
So, and this is the thing. Again, it's so multifaceted that the attitude towards, if you're gonna, there's too much. Certainly, in my business life, there is too much at stake to not do it properly. That's the way I feel about it. So I can be friends with people we work with, but they also know that I don't mind saying it as it is. But I believe that because it comes from the right intentions again, that they don't take it personally. It's interesting because when people first start working with me, they can take it personally. So they go, hang on a minute, 5 minutes ago we were laughing and joking in the car. We sit in a meeting and now hang on, and it's really funny because it takes a bit of time.
Yeah.
And people will say in the organisation, if there's someone new that comes in, I'll have maybe an interaction, a formal working environment interaction with them. They'll then speak to somebody who's been working with me for 2 years and go, trying to figure me out. And that person will say, look, once you get Jamie, you'll understand.
Yeah.
And it's and so, I'll tread where others might not dare. But it all comes to the point, from the point which is my intention is to create the best environment for everyone. It's not the best environment for me because we're a team.
Yeah.
And I can't do it on my own.
Yeah.
And I can't do it without everybody else. So if it means I have to tread where others daren't tread, but I know it's short-term pain for all involved, but it's going to move us in the direction that we all need to be going in, I'll tread there. Because the problem is I have no other choice. Because I will be letting them down if I don't do that. And that's how I'm able to, I've got to have an uncomfortable conversation, or I've got to say something that others don't want to say, but I'm willing to do it, be the ogre in the room for a brief period of time, because I know that if I don't do it, you're all going to be, in my mind, we're all going to be in a worse position for it.
100%.
And and it's funny because I remember when we and John first started working together, I think someone said to John, how's Jamie? And he was like, well, he's a bit different around the boardroom table than he is on the golf course. And I was, when he said that, I was like, good, because I want to be the Funtime Frankie when it's right, and I don't mind being the person that will tread where others might not. I don't mind that, but it is a burden that you carry. If you're that kind of person, it definitely is, because you will then consider interactions with people afterwards.
Yeah, somebody needs to fucking bell the cat. Somebody has to give. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people can't do that, and that's important. And I remember who was I speaking with? One of the. So I used to work with one Olympian. I think she's written a book called The Power of No.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't have that ability to say no, and end up doing things which they don't want to do. Yeah. Just because they could not say no. And you have a reason for that.
It's mate, as you're talking, and a lot of this conversation, it all comes back to what are you trying to achieve? What is the organisation trying to achieve? What are you as a team trying to achieve? And if you truly believe that what you're trying to achieve is a wholesome goal built out of the right stuff, then anything you've got to do along that path to get there is the right decision, whether it's an easy decision or a really tough one. And that's and again, as I've got older, I feel a responsibility to provide for my family, for the people closest to me. I want to be that person. And so, again, if I've got to have a difficult conversation, I just look my 8-year-old boy in the eye and I go, I'm doing it for you, I'm not doing it for me. It makes it, I become a mediator. I almost become removed from that situation. I want to be the best I can be for the people that I love the most. So if it's somebody is compromising that, I'm the mediator in that. And maybe it's a protective mechanism that I use to enable myself to have that uncomfortable conversation. But that's something else that I maybe have built into my psyche to be able to protect myself from, why am I having this uncomfortable conversation when it's not just me? I'm not just bringing this difficultness to you. It's because if I don't do this, then I let my son down, and I let my wife down, and I let the people that I want to provide the best future for. So that's a bit of it as well, I think.
Tell me, Jamie, your lowest point. I know, you had a business, and then, which you also spoke about, and, you probably were not too happy with how it all ended. What was the lowest point? How do you get yourself out of that back into where you are now?
Yeah, the 1,000,000%, the lowest point was liquidating my first business. With me and a mate of mine, I was 24 years of age, nearly 25, I think, and then I was on the dole queue at 21. I got nothing but debt. I was a failed professional footballer. I'm in the dole queue at 21 years of age, signing on. Lost my identity, full of embarrassment, let everyone down. 21 years of age, begged for my first job at £5 an hour, 18 hours a week, fitness instructor. Begged for it because no one gives an ex-footballer a job. Really, they're like, well, you don't know what work is. You've got no work ethic. And I begged for it. I had the interview. He didn't give me the job. I rang the guy back up, tried again. He was like, no. I went and knocked his door again and said, I'm telling you, I'm the right person for this. And he went, right, okay, I'll give you the job. And he gave me this job, 18 hours a week as a fitness instructor. I couldn't pay my way at the time because I'd had this champagne fake lifestyle as a professional footballer that actually I wasn't earning the money that everybody else talked about, and so I was left with this situation. I'm 21 years of age, and that's a story in itself, getting from the dole queue to launching the first business maybe 4 years later.
So let's go there.
Yeah, so and again, talk about pivotal moments. I decided, whilst my second professional contract had been cancelled, so I did I did 4 years in the game, 5 years in the game, as a young apprentice, and then I had a professional contract, and then that got terminated. I then went to another club, and they then terminated my contract after a year. Emotionally, everything, I was not in the right place to be a professional athlete. So I had to be honest with myself and go, I can't keep doing this. It's gonna completely break me. So I made the decision. Even though I hadn't got a contract, I could have gone and tried to get another one with another club, but I just hadn't got the oomph about me. So I was like, right, I can't be a footballer anymore. It's not going to work. So my dad said, right, you better go sign on then. So off I went to sign on for job seekers, and so I signed on. And I was in the queue at the local, job centre with a hoodie up. I was the professional. I'm Jamie. We lived in a town, 26,000 people. Jamie's the footballer, and there I was, in that job centre, hood up, trying to hide from everybody, because to me, it was height of embarrassment. It was a fall from grace. So I signed on.
And how old were you then?
21. So I'd left home at 16, went to play football full time, and then at 21 years of age, I'm back at home, debt ridden, because I was living a champagne lifestyle on an apprentice professional wage, and then had to go and get a job and start from there. I had no idea what to do. No idea, no skills really, nothing. All I ever, because I was going to be a footballer from the age of 7. Everyone could see that I got talent. So from the age of 7 to 21, all I ever knew was to be a footballer, and it was nothing else. So now I'm sitting on a dole queue begging. I said to them, I just need to get a job, and they were like, right, well, I've got this job. You can start on Monday, and I was like, yep, let's go, let's do it. So it was in July, I remember it was in July, sun was shining, and all the lads I'd played football with for the last 5 years, they were just kicking back into pre-season training from the summer break. I turned up at this place at 7:30 in the morning, which, by the way, there was only one 7:30 in the day back in those days, and that was in the evening, because footballers don't start till 10 o'clock. So, I mean, I'm normally deep sleep at 7:30, so I met this guy at this factory, and the recruitment person said, "Oh, it's dead easy. You're just packing food into big cool boxes. It's dead simple. It's all you've got to do. And you just take a list and you go, right, ham, cheese sandwich, put it in there, and that's all you do." I said, "Right, great. I can do that as a job." They followed this guy through this huge warehouse. I mean, we must have walked for half an hour to get to where, in this huge building. I've never been in one before. They get to this door. He pulls a cord from this massive high ceiling, and this door goes like this, and what was like dry ice came out of this. What she didn't tell me was the factory was chilled between freezing and 4 degrees.
Fuck me.
Right? So then they gave me a set of overalls, right? They gave me a set of overalls, because I was in shorts and t-shirt, do you know what I mean? I'm like, so she sent me a set of overalls, and they were a bit too small for me, right? So I was in this slightly hunched position because it was pinching at the crotch. And in I went, right? This dark, freezing cold room. And then the woman, Sarah, I remember her clearly. Sarah was then she was going to mentor me and teach me how to put sandwiches in cool boxes, right? So, yeah, a week of training to do that. And I was like, come on, I can. So anyway, we're walking. We had this little basket between us. Imagine it's dark, because I can't let sunlight into it because it heats the rooms. It's dark. And I'm pushing this thing, and she's got, here's the list, and the call box number 5, right, we've got to put this in and that. And she's right, you have a go. And sure enough, I kept getting it wrong. No, not the ham and mustard, it's the ham and cheese you've got to put in it. So I was like, I can't even do this, right? What is wrong with me? I can't even do this. And then this is a pivotal moment. She was saying to me how she was looking at doing a different job, but she'd been there 7 years, right? She'd been in this dark, cold room for 7 years. And she said, and my husband, and she pointed at him over there, he's been here 9 years now. And I mean, can you imagine me? I'm just going, this can't be my future, right? And she talked about, we've just done 6 weeks, no days off, so that we can take the family away for a week's holiday. Right, I can't tell you, I'm feeling it now. I was holding that basket, and I was looking at it, and I'm going, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I can't do this, right? And then something just made me go, well, you can't. Because if you leave now, you've set a precedent for you. That you're giving up. You can't give up. You just can't. So I sat there and I looked at her, and I was like, every cell in my body was like, you got to get out of here. This isn't for you. But I knew that I had to walk this path. If I had left and gone, I've no idea what would have happened. I could have just fell into alcohol, or there's a lot of ex-footballers, they can't handle life. And I was like, no. I've got to stay here and something, don't know what it is. And I know it sounds ridiculous because it was just a job, but it's all relative, isn't it? 100%. I didn't know anything different to that point. And so, anyway, long story short, I did a week, right? I did a week because I'd already thought this isn't for me. So I reached out to somebody who I knew had their own business. And I said, look, I think, can you help me out? I'd already done this. I met him at the weekend. He then gave me a job painting floor slabs outside. I can't tell you how happy I was to paint slabs outside because of what I'd experienced. Now the important,
all relative, is it?
Right? And this is the whole thing, isn't it? If I hadn't have done a week in the fridge,
right? And
I always talk about the week in the fridge. If I hadn't have done a week in the fridge, I don't think I would have then been able to handle everything that I did moving forwards. Painting slabs in the sun all of a sudden was an absolute godsend to me because I'd had this experience in the fridge. And then from that, I was like, right, okay. And I just cracked on, kept trying, pushing. And I ended up moving through, £5 an hour fitness instructor. Within 3.5 years, I was on a really strong salary, managing the North Territory, selling fitness equipment. I had my own diary, and it took me about, no qualifications really.
Hard work.
It was just relentless, moving myself into an uncomfortable situation, full imposter syndrome. I mean, I didn't know what that meant at the time, I was on a mission to prove to myself that I'm not a failure and to try and gain some credibility back into life. And that was my drive. And then by the time I was 24 years of age, I turned around to my mate, who was a civil engineer. He wasn't enjoying his job. And I said, man, I've got this business model. I think we can do it ourselves. We can do a variation to something that's already successful in the market. And he looked at it and he told his mum and dad, and his mum and dad gave him and his 2 brothers, he was in the middle of 3 brothers, early inheritance. So they gave £20,000 each to invest in this new business.
Wow.
Which is unbelievable. We only used 35,000 quid of it. We didn't need all the 60. We were never, from the 35 grand we put in, we grew the business to like over a million turnover.
Wow.
15 clubs around the country, as in ladies' gyms around the country. 10 of them franchised, so we went this whole franchise route. 5 we owned ourselves. So you could say that we did well as a couple of kids, really.
100%.
You know, but there was definitely through that process more of a reckless requirement from me as a leader to just crack on and get on and get on and get on. My intentions were still absolutely right. I wanted everyone to do well. I loved the idea of taking people in at what you'd call the bottom end of the business, if you like, and then seeing them become managers of sites and doing really well. So it was fantastic. We learned so much from that. But to get to the original question, which was what was the lowest point, it was, of course, losing the business. And the lesson I learned, one of the major lessons I learned with that business is that even if all your intentions are right, you're doing everything you can for yourself and for everybody else, there are things in business that will hit you sideways that you cannot foresee. And you've got to embrace them. And unfortunately, when we were at a difficult point, in the business, cash flow was getting tight. We'd done all the things to reinvent ourselves. We'd done everything we could. We got to a point where we were kind of surviving. My business partner, who was my best mate, he had to leave the business because he couldn't afford both of us. That was really difficult. You know, if you think about it, I knew him from the age of 7. We'd grown up together. Our families were tight. It was his baby as much as it was mine, but at the end of the day, it wasn't big enough for both of us anymore. He had to leave. You know, there was tears and all that kind of stuff at that point. I held it on my own then for 2 more years, which I now know I'm not a solo business. I need to be around people who are. So I learned from that. But then I remember something happened particularly that meant we had no choice. We'd talked to insolvency practitioners about our situation quite early on because we wanted to know what our position was. And then I remember there was a particular day, something I won't get into the detail. It was around two landlords, and they sold the freehold. We had new landlords, so we had no credibility with the new landlords. They wanted us to enter into new leases and all this sort of stuff, personally guarantee the leases and all that. And I turned and looked at the accountant at the time, who was really right there at the coalface with me, helping me at that point. And he just turned around and said, Jamie, I wouldn't move forwards with this anymore. I was working outside of the business as a consultant, feeding the business the money to pay the wages. So I'm running a business on my own, doing consultancy over here, traveling the country doing that. That was going into the business to survive. And then at one point I just was like, right, okay, then after that advice, and I was emotionally attached, so I wasn't making the right financial decisions. When he looked at me and he went, I wouldn't do it, mate. We then rang the insolvency practitioner and said, right, this is where we're at. And it was at that point they said, if that is your decision, you have to close the doors now. No. Because you've now told us that you're planning on not moving forwards. Every hour you now trade, you're trading, what did they call it? Basically, it's not illegal. Well, it kind of, yeah. You've told us that you're not commercially viable anymore, and so if you trade on from past this point, taking people's money, knowing that you can't service it, that was kind of the key thing. So the gyms were geographically not near me. I had to ring the staff, the managers of the site, and say, I'm ever so sorry, the gym is no more. You've lost your job. Oh, and I'm sending you a letter on email. Can you print it out and stick it on the front of the doors? And I'm like, this is not what I got into business for. All the members that no longer had a gym, you know, and I was, and I understand it now. I was that business person that did a runner. I didn't do a runner. It was just I hadn't got a choice. I had to shut the gyms there and then. There was the really difficult thing about all this. I had 2 or 3 profitable gyms, but I had 2 that weren't, and it was these 2 that killed those 3. And so, if we'd have shaped our business better, structured it better, we could have ring-fenced the profitable ones. But everyone lost out because the whole business couldn't fund itself anymore. It couldn't pay its so I lost everything, all of the profitable side locations because of how we'd structured the business. And I remember I just felt so bad about letting everyone down. And weirdly, there was one more wage run. It was the business had to liquidate, and there was like, right, you're going to shut the doors. It's going to liquidate, and the insolvency practitioners said, oh, you need to do it immediately. And I was like, well, the wage runs tomorrow, and they were like, well, you're obviously not going to pay that. And I went, well, I can't not pay it. And they said, and they looked at me like I'd got 3 heads. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, well, I can't not pay that. They've just worked for it. Yeah, but Jamie, what it meant was I did the wage run, but then I came out with the debt of that wage run personally because I carried PG debt out of that business. So they were looking at me like to say, no, that's just, and I just said, well, that's not possible. I can't do that. But yeah, even though we did the wage run and then shut the business, even though I carried the debt out of the business because I did that, I still got hammered online and in the local paper as the business person that just shut the doors and took everyone's money. It's like,
I want to get to that. So, you know, this is one of the things nobody understands. You know, there's so much you've told me now, and I've got so many questions. You know, 2 things. One, you spoke about, you said 3.5 years I had my own diary.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And that shows perseverance and resilience. A lot of young people today would not look at 3.5 years as a short duration of time. They would look at 3.5 fucking years. That's a long time. I want 3.5 months is long enough.
Yeah.
Forget 3.5 years.
Yeah.
From there, to start from there and to reach having your own diary, that's a very difficult thing for a lot of people to do.
Yeah.
So it's you know, resilience and perseverance. So that's, I think, one of your big strengths then, you know, if I would say that.
Yeah.
The second aspect that you spoke about now, when you shut down a business, and I've seen this happen to so many people, you know, you try your best. People don't understand what business is. No. They don't understand what an entrepreneur goes through. And a lot of people who jump into this bandwagon of being an entrepreneur don't understand. It's a thankless world.
Yeah.
Whatever you do. And I think, going back to what you said initially, if I believe in myself that I have done the right thing, it doesn't matter what others say, because people don't have any context whatsoever.
No.
They don't understand. So you're giving that one last wage run was something that you actually didn't need to do legally.
No.
You didn't have, and you took it on yourself.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs do that. And it's because they believe they have a value system that they say, you know what, I think I will do this. You know, there's one aspect which is legal. There's one aspect which I feel personally that I should be paying this.
Correct.
And I do that.
Yeah.
That's a very difficult decision to take.
Yeah.
And you will still, like you rightly said, you will still get abused online. You will still get abused by people. And people don't understand what you've gone through, why you've done.
You know the saying, Samir, you can't understand somebody unless you've walked in their shoes. I came out of that process never prejudging other people's decisions because I've not walked in your shoes. I might understand some of it. So, you know, I'm the guy when everyone starts to just hammer somebody about something. I'm the guy that will go, but you don't know the story.
Yeah.
On the face of it, it looks like this person's actions are absolutely, incredibly the wrong thing to do. But you don't truly know the situation. And that, and of course, often the person is a knob and they shouldn't have acted that way. But there are times when actually And more often than people will realise that I wasn't the business owner that did a runner, shut the doors and ran off with a load of cash. Absolutely not. I funded the business with outside work to try and keep it going for 2 years. I was forced to shut the door because of the way we structured the business. There was nothing that I could do about it. I was forced to shut the door. And then I came out with personal debt because of it, to make sure that the people that had worked in the business had 30 days of income, that they got a month from me, because they'd worked a month and they were about to get paid. I thought, I can't say, by the way, you haven't got a job, and you can't pay your mortgage tomorrow. I just couldn't do it. And I just honestly, I can still see the two insolvency practitioners, they were just looking at each other going, why would you do that? I'm like, why wouldn't you do that? And okay, what I found out after all of that is, even though I did all the right things and I could sleep at night, eventually when I looked at it all, it didn't matter to other people externally who didn't walk in those shoes.
You do it more for yourself than anybody else.
I mean, honestly, the Sheffield Star newspaper, there's a big article in there about how all these members have been left, without they're paid their membership. And I'm looking at them and I'm going, all right, so sorry, you paid 39 quid a month for your membership and you've paid it. So I owe you 39 quid. I'm tens of thousands in debt here trying to do that. And I'm not belittling the 39 quid. I just, at the time, felt like, give me a break. I've nearly broken myself trying to service those memberships. And I did everything I could. And I think, would I go to that length again? I think with what I know now, hopefully I would negate the problem. But if I didn't, I think I would have lanced the boil earlier. I held on to it for probably 18 months longer than I should have done. But I was emotionally invested, and it was a detriment of my life. And, the lowest point was that there was about a week or two period where we'd lost the business. And again, it was only, so that we had it for 10 years, so we had a good go at it. But again, I'd built an identity around being Jamie, the business owner. So my new identity was attached to this. So I managed to get away from Jamie, the footballer, and rebuild credibility. And the people that maybe I cared too much about their opinion at the time now gave me some, some credibility for what I'd achieved. But then I was back to Jamie, the failed businessman again. So my identity was attached to my business and professional life success. And so at the time, this is 2014, 15, I'd lost everything again. The way I could describe it is going to a social event and sitting around a dinner table with other people. I wanted to be proud about what I was achieving. So my self-worth was too attached to my professional life. But that ironically gives me motivation to go again at the right time. So interestingly, as I've got older, my self-worth isn't directly as a result of my professional successes. It will have an effect on it, of course it does. You want to be proud of your achievements. But actually my self-worth comes from far better places down that are far more stable and not built on material successes. But I just had to learn that.
So Jamie, I mean, I know what happens when a business shuts down. I've seen too many of my friends, go through that. And when it shuts down, and when you come out and people are talking about you all mostly negative for whatever reason, but that's the way the world rolls. Other entrepreneurs would probably empathize and understand what you've gone through.
Yes.
But not the general public. And now to start something from scratch, do you think that there is a baggage that you carry in terms of reputation, in terms of, is it more difficult to start a business after you've kind of not had a great experience with the last one? And I believe failure is a failure if you put it as a full stop.
Yes.
If you put it as a comma, it's just a bump in the road. Simple as that.
1 million%. I think, I licked my wounds after being failed footballer, and I got cracking I just, we're having it. I'm not giving up on life. I'm going to, grab it by the scruff of the neck. I then did that. So that was 2002. And then I worked tirelessly. And then in 2015, my professional world imploded again. Dusted myself down, reflected. Am I okay with, and I know, I went through, I went and worked for a local charity on a salary that didn't cover my outgoings, but I just wanted structure. I wanted to do something that was good and just find myself again. And so I went through the process of building myself back up. But I mean, I'd sit I was in an office, which again is not my greatest environment, sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day, I can't sit still.
I can't visualize you.
I'm normally walking around sort of like, and so I'm sitting in this office, but it gave me what I needed at the time: stability, structure, wholesome people doing good. It wasn't about material gain. It was about literally the purpose of the charity was to serve others, and I felt that was what I needed to kind of feed my soul with the right stuff. And so I did that, but I'd have a break in the mid-morning and I'd go out to my car and I'm dealing with the insolvencies people and the liquidators. I'm working out how much debt I've got left over. So I'd do that and then I go back in to the office and then try and be proactive in creating income for the charity. And it's like, there's not that, I got a Q7 thing, I got this big car sitting in the car park. It was like a reminder of my previous life. And now I've lost it all. I'm debt ridden. I've lost my identity. I've lost my pride. I've lost all of that. And then here I am in the dark room at a desk, which is everything that I don't want to be. But it's just it was what I could handle. And it was also the next step. It was the first step to get back somehow.
The calm before the storm.
Yeah, it was just that. And that was great, and you take every time you interact and have these moments, I take a lot from. I was only there 3 months. What I learned so much in those 3 months about that kind of business, charities, how they their culture, everything that they do. You know what I mean?
So did this happen by accident, or did you actually choose going to a charity?
Yeah, no, no, it was absolutely calculated. Absolutely, but as I say, it didn't matter that I was losing money every month.
So what were you thinking when you're applying for a charity? How did you come to this conclusion? Why not work for an Amazon? I'm just giving an example. Why not work for?
I felt I got skill sets that can create income, right? Revenue. I'd been at it with. I'd come from a failing business from a revenue and a profitability point of view, and it had happened over years. It was coming, and I was holding it up in every way I could.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
It's my job.
100%.
I take that responsibility. I don't blame anyone for that. Oh, no, that's what I take. And I was fine with that. And anyone will tell you in business, when it's good, it's great.
Yeah.
But when it's not good, it's bloody hard, and I cared as well, so it was even worse. And so I just felt like, right, okay, you need a slower pace of life right now to rejuvenate from what you've just done, but you have a skill set that you could do something really good with. And that will, all of the pain I felt for letting all of the people down, I felt like this might fill my cup over here and balance that out a little bit. Give me structure. I can put my skill sets to something that is all about serving others when I'd let lots of people down. It just seemed like the right thing for me to do. And I just was like, it was almost like I wanted to get out the rat race for a while and just, as in this profit loss, I just wanted to just have a bit of quiet time, but I could still add value in income generation for a charity. And so it was calculated. I look back on it now, it was obviously what I felt I was capable of doing, even though I was right on the edge of, in 2015, I was not in a good place psychologically. My mental health was really not great. I'd been medicated on a couple of times for a panic and anxiety disorder. I'd tried alternative stuff to try and handle, and it's just the scars of entrepreneurship as it was for me at the time, right? And so I was right on the limit of what I was capable of doing, and I was aware of that. I was very self-aware of what, I could snap, I could break at some point here. So, but I can't not do anything. So I've got to find something that I can do. And I could do that job with my eyes closed. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but the job was a junior, it was £17,000 a year. That's what the salary was. I had to do a whole day interview with all these different things to get this 17 grand a year job. I was a 35-year-old fellow who got a decent CV, but it didn't matter. That was what I was able to do at the time. Energy levels, focus, and it was a step in the right direction. So that happened. I got a little bit more. The past was slowly going away. I knew what the debt I'd come out with. I knew what it meant I'd liquidated. I was able to not put so much time and energy into that. That was slowly going. I was dealing with the embarrassment of it. I started to find my life again. And then I started to go, right, okay, now I'm ready to start getting back into what this sort of plan that I had. And my plan has always been, it's as simple as this: I want freedom. I want freedom, and what that means in our world is financial freedom. And freedom for choice. So because financial freedom, it provides freedom of choice, which means I'm then the tail isn't wagging the dog. I'm in control of my life.
But that comes at a price, and a lot of times, again, young entrepreneurs don't understand comes at a price, and especially today when you see things on Instagram. I made a sales funnel which gives me $2 million a month. What the fuck is that about? And no, honestly, and people actually think that they can sit at home and make that kind of money. It's just unbelievable, and which is what takes me to the fact that a lot of times it's important to fail in life. It's a lot of times it's important to have those lessons learned, and it's not that you don't fail. It's people who fail fast and learn who kind of make it big in life. BOX12. Where did this idea come from, and how did it? I mean, you had nothing to do with boxing. You're a footballer.
There's synergies with BOX12 that came from my previous business. So I'd learned an awful lot with the model of my previous business. Different demographic, different customer.
Correct.
But the structure of how it delivered.
But you still have 50% women in boxwear.
Well, completely, and it is a fantastic workout for anyone. So the BOX12. I mean, look, I also, as an entrepreneur, I think you can get a bit wrapped up. To call yourself an entrepreneur, you can get a bit wrapped up with the label of it and what it means, and I think it means different things to different people.
Correct.
What I've always done with my businesses is I haven't necessarily just had a blank piece of paper and come up with this brand new idea that doesn't already exist, right? Now stick with me. Now there's nuances. Most good ideas are just a plagiarized version of other things that sit out there, and you might just cobble it together better than someone's done previously, right? There was a time where I had a problem with myself about that are you a true entrepreneur? Because have you truly created anything that's really different to anything else that's out there? But actually, when you look at most things, they're just an evolution of something that already existed.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100. I couldn't agree more with you, because you always say, and this is what I believe, look at something that's doing well as a business model, make it better. And BOX12 is a combination of experience, of years of experience. When you talk about, you look at John's experience, he has 20 years of experience from more than that now from school, doing what he's done. I've got the same. We've got
40 years of combined experience to create BOX12. And BOX12 is a combination of factors, some that existed and some that didn't. It's just, it was a case of understanding how we put those together so that the sum of its parts becomes more than just them individually.
I know the story of when you went to Hatton Boxing and tried
Yeah.
and changed a lot of things there.
Yeah.
When you walked in, right, and again, working with Ricky Hatton,
Yep.
huge name,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's a legend.
Yeah. Oh.
And so you entering into Hatton Boxing.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah.
How did you?
Isn't it interesting how you find yourself? If you'd have asked me 6-7 years ago, Jamie, you're going to run a boxing brand, right? And I would have gone, you crackers, what you know? Isn't it funny how things happen? So, but it's not, again, how the timing helps as well, doesn't it? I couldn't play football anymore, so my knees and ankles are shot, so I had to find a different method of training. And boxing became something that I just became really interested in. Then mine and John's path crossed socially. Then and then we were kind of trying to do the same sort of thing. And then we were like, should we get our heads together here? Do you know what was interesting? It was like we would share our experiences on our path. Then it got to a point where we would have to be careful. If we shared our experiences, we might actually give away. It got a bit too serious then, where we couldn't share them because he might nick my idea or vice versa. And it was at that point where I just said to him, should we get our heads together here? Because we're doing the same thing. And that was when I then joined Hatton Boxing. Yeah. And then basically we did the deal with Ricky and Ricky's team, whereby we acquired the majority of Hatton Boxing. But then what it meant was me and John were running it, and we took all the risk on. So we had to make it profitable. Because it took my salary into the equation, which was one it didn't carry prior to that. And John will openly tell you that, when you've got when you've got someone with deep pockets that is involved in a business, sometimes you can make decisions that cost you. It doesn't cost you as much,
right?
Because you're able to fund the cost, right? What we had to do with Hatton Boxing was we had to turn it into a really serious business that was. And all I did when I walked through the door was just challenge all the critical areas of the business to make sure that the right commercial decisions were being made. And what it also meant, and again, we talked about it earlier, treading where others daren't. We had, what is it going to be? What's the vehicle that we're on to get there? What seats are on the bus? And that is the blueprint for success, as we've all agreed. But what that means is, unfortunately, some of the people don't have a seat on the bus anymore. It's just the way it is. It's not because we're nasty people. It's just that, so we lost, people were made redundant in the early days because it was just the right thing to do. The business had to survive and then thrive. And it wasn't in trouble, but I just mean, when we took it on, there was a definite honesty around the business then, which is you can't just go and spend money on different areas, because me and John hadn't got the deep pockets that were once there. And so we had to make the right decisions. So it was tough at the start, because I probably did some of my best work I've ever done in the first 12 months with Hatton Boxing. And we doubled training revenue, and everything was fine. But it was a risk taking it on between the two of us. And also, the Hatton brand, it's like we're the custodials to look after that brand, and we needed to do it right by Ricky and by the people who are invested in it.
So it must have been a very tight rope to walk.
Yeah, it was. And the daft thing about it is and I suppose this might be if you're asking whether if anyone asks if I'm a true entrepreneur, I had a very solid job that paid a really good salary for a group of people that were brilliant. And that's the My Zone guys. Absolutely. 2 years, we worked hard, we had a ball. I mean, it's in my mind, it's the best job in the world for that kind of job. That's what I truly believe. Fantastic environment to be in. I left that, went to a business that I didn't know if it could pay me anything, because I have to get up in the morning and be passionate about what I'm doing. And if I'm not, I will change it. And I don't necessarily mean I'll change it immediately, because it might not be the right time, but I'll start the wheels in motion, the way I talk, the way I act, to get myself to a point where it is the right time to move on. But as long as I know that I'm going down the right path, then it allows me to get up in the morning. Dave and his team, don't get me wrong, I was working hard. I was doing everything I could for my zone but I always very quickly felt I need to find my passion again.
You're a fucking entrepreneur. That's
you know, and I honestly, me and John talk about it. We go, do you realise when we took Hatton on, like what we actually did? And it's like, you know, but there isn't a risk for me. Of course, there's a financial risk and there's a material risk, but as a human being, it's not a risk. It's absolutely what I have to do. And so in we went, back against the wall a little bit again. Let's make it work. And then you talked about it earlier about making fast strategic decisions. Hatton Boxing was evolving into providing more than what it just provided. But we were meeting problems with it. It wasn't quite landing. And so rather than fight it, be honest about what your business is, what it does, ask the right questions that aren't weighted or aren't biased, look at it for what it is. And we went, the Hatton brand isn't the right brand for what we're trying to do with it. And yet, such a solid brand, and all the reasons why it's fantastic, it didn't translate into what we were trying to do. So we ended up creating a second brand that met the requirements of what we were trying to get Hatton Boxing to do. And that's where BOX12 basically came from.
So one of the things, I don't know if I got it on record with John or we were talking before or after the podcast, but you're very solution oriented in terms of you try to make the best possible, the most optimum way of achieving, the goal, put down the path. You may not want to actually do everything, but you want to make the path. And he gave me an example that there's one day you called him and he was driving. So you asked him, John, are you in front of the computer? He said, no, I'm on my way somewhere, but is it important? He said, no, it's fine. When you reach home, just call me. And he called you back. And you said, you're trying to organize some tournament. And you said, can you put it, there has to be an easier way of doing this. Can you put this all in an Excel and...
Isn't it funny? I know exactly what you're talking about. And optimizing any situation has become everything that I do. And what you're talking about is a load of old boys getting together to play football.
Yeah, correct.
That's what it was. And it turned out that this team that we all used to play for over the last 20, 25 years, all the lads just turned out from years ago. We ended up with 45 players wanting to play in the football team on this old boys game. There's only 11 players can play football, of course. So I'm sitting there going, well, I'm the one organising it. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to put this in the fag packet. So I was like, right, there must be a way that Excel can figure all this out for me. I'll put all the formations in, and then if I just put a number in. So I rang John up, and I must have, honestly, you're absolutely right. For a lad's knockabout, I turned up with my Apple Mac with a formulated Excel sheet where I could just simply go, is Johnny turned up today? Oh no, Johnny says, right, no worries. I could just click a button and Johnny was out of that there, and another guy was pushing in there. And honestly, but that is that is how I view everything. Yeah. And maybe I'm a bit of a geek, and John will laugh if he listens to this. If my sofa's over there, if I'm on that sofa over there and I'm going to bed, and there's a glass there, my trainers are here, and I will think about optimizing my path to my bedroom and carrying a thing. I swear down I will. So I'll go, right, so I need to carry that in that hand, and then if I get my shoes, I can walk up, drop. I've already got my shoes, and I'm on my way back. I've saved 4 seconds, but that's just how I am. If I've gained them 4 seconds back, and I do it basically on, I do it with literally everything, and it's not exhausting. I don't mind it because it's not. But yeah, it's funny how now you bring it up, isn't it? Funny how
I've also seen this firsthand. I still remember when you were trying to make the home pods.
Yeah.
And I remember we all went live on that call, and you went with that drawing that I need this to be optimum so that it can be a curbside delivery. What if we cut this from here and then get it this is the pallet size, and what you're trying to do was optimizing the entire thing so that in the long run,
Yes.
nobody has to do the
Correct.
kind of effort.
Yeah.
Now, I come back to, one of the things that's very important, and you also mentioned, you said that you always work good with partners, with people
Yeah.
around, right? I think a lot of people need to understand their limitations, their strengths.
Yeah.
Amplify on their strengths,
Yes.
get somebody who works on the weaknesses
1
and grows the business.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the problem with that sometimes is when you have a partner and have enough people where partnerships have gone sour, right? How do you manage the balance where you have a partner in? How do you define and tell somebody that, you know what, when it comes to this, this kind of a job, you're a dickhead, you can't do it. I can do it better than you. But when it comes to this job, I'm the dickhead, you can do a better job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And acknowledge that. So do you sit down, do it? How does this process work?
Yeah, okay. So I think I'm a decent judge of character. I think one of my skill sets is I can almost meet someone and within the first few sentences, I pretty much know how they're built. I don't know what it is. I'm very, very visual, how people stand, dress, communicate. So I can pick up very quickly on that. And what I mean by that is I believe there is definitely a scientific way that you can approach a partnership, and you should. But there's also what's your connection? Because I don't necessarily believe that if you are purely scientific about your partner, and what I mean by that is systematic, let's put an Excel sheet together. Here's my strengths, here's your, works, right? I think if you just do that, you're gonna go, you're missing some of the key parts of your toolkit you need, which is enjoyment, the time you spend with each other. When things get tough, can you both emotionally, are you connected enough to deal with the challenges ahead? Are you built of the right stuff? This is for me personally, it's important that I know that you have my back like I have yours. And that my intention is to create wealth and financial freedom for your family as much as it is for my family. Those things are important. But then there's definitely a part where you need to understand where your skill sets lie and how you can dovetail as a partnership. So both my partnerships, business partners, were built on human connection first. It's too important for me to spend lots of time and invest as much energy into creating a better life for you as much for me if I don't connect with you on that human level. So I think one of the things for John and I is quite funny. We went into business together, and we actually are really quite different in our skill sets. We're really quite different in our skill sets. We didn't fully know that when we first got together. I was worried that we were too similar. It turns out.
And because you're socially very similar, and I'm exactly what John said as well.
Is it? Yeah.
So when you guys would socialize, you were like exactly the same kind of people in the social circle, But when it came to work, your different strengths.
And this is a really important point on this about partnerships. Me and my previous business partner, who, as I've said, we are best mates still. We are totally different, like completely different. And if you do one of those tests, we did a Belbin's test, the ones that the person, it's like this, right? it's so, and on the face of it, you go, absolutely perfect. You guys will complement each other perfectly. The one thing that we could never ever agree on was a common outcome for what our business was existing for. We could never, we revisited it. We had people come in to try and consult us. He could not commit to a solid vision. I could, and he just, now the thing with John and I is, because we're more similar, in some ways and quite dissimilar in others, we are totally aligned in what our objective is with our business. So there is a that's for me is massive, because I struggled with that in my previous business, and as we all know, if you don't know where you're going, how do you make the right decisions today? To make, and so whereas John and I, and we revisit our vision, our strategy, we do it periodically. We don't just take it for granted, because in a year's time we might be different people. So we do ask ourselves those questions. I'm always the one instigating it, and he goes, "Oh, so you sent me another one of these questionnaires to find out what I want in life," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, I want to know if you still want the same things you did last year," and we do these things because it all comes from what we're trying to achieve personally. To then our business has to be aligned with that, and we are absolutely aligned in what we're trying to achieve. But the beauty of it is that we can sit in different job roles, and we have job titles, and we wrote them formally. We're two founders of a business, but it was like, no. What is it that you're doing? What is it that I'm doing? We need to understand what our job roles are. We've got job descriptions, and that's what we do. And just like we would with an employed person, we will revisit ourselves to make sure that we're still doing what we say we should be doing, and that we're still aligned with our greater vision. And that's a real biggie for me. What I've found is it's made it much easier for us to make the big, high-level strategic decisions about where we want to take the business, because I'm not having to pull. We're not wasting time pulling in slightly different directions, which is what it felt like in my last business.
I personally believe if you can have tough conversations, you won't see tough types. A lot of times, we don't have those tough conversations. I can tell you, between you and me, we've a very good personal relationship. We have a lot of fun, everything. But we can have tough conversations also, because we also respect each other in terms of what we do. And I've seen that with you and John. And a lot of times people confuse disagreement with disrespect, which isn't the case.
No.
And especially with two founders. And when both of them, so imagine two big founders who've done well in life come together, have different strengths. You come with two egos, and then somewhere the company goes absolutely is the third priority, because now it's about Jamie is trying to say that I'm the bigger guy in the equation.
Doesn't happen,
and that doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen. It doesn't. You're absolutely right. It doesn't happen. I think ego and pride. There's two distinct different things in that.
Chalk and cheese.
There's nothing wrong with you being a proud person, but if you're ego driven, I don't think it's built of the right stuff. So that doesn't sit with me. And I will happily. And John used to argue. No, hang on. Early days, because this is what I'll do in a conversation. I'll suggest maybe a path we need to go down, or I'll come up with some kind of path. In the middle of that conversation, I'll play devil's advocate to my own thing, right? And in the early days, he used to argue with me, but actually he realised that what I was doing, I was contradicting myself to make sure that what I just said was actually right. And he used to sit there going, "Mate, what? I don't know what you're talking. I'm completely lost." And I'm like, it's almost like I'm thinking out loud with him.
He said exactly the same. Oh, fuck me. This is. You guys should go on a fucking quiz competition kind of a thing. One in one room, one in the other room, and ask questions to each other. Honestly. So funny. One of the things it's so funny you say this because he said Jamie would, to the extent, come up with an idea, tell me something. 2 days later, come and fuck it, man. It won't work. He says, "What the fuck, man? I was working on this." And you said, "No." He says, so he would think 50 times before he comes with an idea. And sometimes we're having a discussion. He will say, "I think this is right." And in the middle of the conversation, say, No, it's not right. Fuck it. Let's do this. But that also shows that you would look at an idea on its own merit, not who's given. It doesn't matter whose idea it is.
No, it doesn't. No. 100, absolutely. But again, you get older, you get wiser, and you realise that there are times when you do have to drive an idea through. And not so much. John and I I don't think we've ever passionately disagreed. passionately to the point where there's no resolution to something, right? But I do think it comes back to our alignment, and because we're aligned in our goals, and I think we get there in the end, and it's very. But I think sometimes leaders, this whole idea of a consultative approach across your team to to get the win the hearts and minds of everybody, and everyone's kind of wanting. I feel like there's a lot of consultants out there that will say, you shouldn't be a benign dictatorship, and I agree with that completely. But it's not easy if you can see something that others can't get yet to get them to where you are before you take them where they need to be. So there are occasions where you have to lead to a point where you are pulling them. They're not completely with you at the front end. That is as difficult as it can get. But then when they start to see it, what you saw, then they're with you. But if you consult everyone all the time,
you can't survive. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You'll never do anything. Or you might do it, but you'll do it diluted because you're trying to please everyone. So I think with the way that we operate, and we're small, so we're a small team. We can be nimble. We can be agile.
A small team, but a big brand.
Yeah, and when I say a small team, we've got. When you look at the wider support network of outsourced, but we specifically kept our team small and lean and agile for the reasons that we can be that, and we need to be that.
It's a very closely bonded team. I've seen that. I've seen that firsthand. People believe in the product. People believe in the brand. People believe in the leaders, and I think a lot of it comes from the fact that you need to first believe in your founders before you believe in the company. How do you induct people into the organization? Because one of the things I've always wanted to understand is when I speak to anybody from the BOX12 team, right? Even before they talk about BOX12, they would talk about you and John. How have you been able to do that?
Yeah, so I've read things in the past with business leaders, and you can't be friends with your employees, and it was refreshing when I listened to Richard Branson talk about how he's quite the opposite, and if you're built of the right things fundamentally, you can connect on the right level with the people in your organization, and then because of that, you can then be a boss, if you want to, you can be a leader, say it as it is, because they always know that the purpose of your intention is right by everybody. And me and John are built of that stuff. Like fundamentally, that's how we're built. We see our organization as an upturned triangle. We're not at the top telling everybody what to do. We're the other way around. Yeah. We're the point at the bottom, and our goal is to support everybody above us to deliver the best that they can deliver. That's our ethos. And I've made the mistake in the past, in a previous business, of trying to support people on a personal level, but letting them down professionally. So not having the right formal processes in place within the organisation to give your team the best that they can, the best opportunity to thrive in your organisation. I've failed at that in the past.
Could you give me an example of this? Is a very interesting point you're making, because I know what you mean, but
what does it actually mean on the ground tactically?
Yeah, I mean, if you could think of an example.
Completely, yeah. So I could speak to somebody in the team every day, chat every day, talk freely about everything. But what I wasn't doing was sitting them down in a formal environment and giving them the opportunity to truly tell me what they think, what they feel. Having this free-flowing, nice, sort of fluffy office space where everyone, we had dartboards and blinking table tennis tables and all this, that, and the other. And I would speak to this, say for example, this particular person, I would speak to them 5 times a day. I was interested in them as a human. I would, if they wanted me as counsel and things in their life, I'm there for them. I would do everything I could for them. What I was failing to do is to say things like this. What can the company do better to support you to be better in your role? Like a formal answer that question honestly and give them the space and the time to do that. And then the discipline to have that formal time, ask the right questions, but then action it as a leader, to then revisit it over a period of time, periodically, ask them the same questions. It's the classic performance review, if you want to call it. It can be called other things. But ultimately, it's us getting together, even though I speak to them 5 times a day, having the moment in time where, because they don't want me as their mate sorting out their personal life. That's not what my job is. They come to work to be the best that they can be at work. That's my job fundamentally. I'm always there for you if you want to talk to me about anything else. But I had it the wrong way around because I didn't understand how to support the people in the team on a professional level properly, and I had to learn how to do that, and I was taught how to do it. I was trying to make up for that shortfall by being their mate and helping them and everything else. And they don't need that. Well, they might do, but I'm there for them. But the important thing is, in our organisation, first and foremost, my job is to create the best working environment for the people within the organisation. That's my job. My job is to do everything I can for you to be the best version of yourself professionally. And then I can be your mate, and I would love to. If you don't work with it, it's fine. I get it, but I got it the wrong way around. It took somebody to come in to my previous business, and again, I had the foresight to go. We were growing, the people were growing, and we hadn't got the gearing right in the business. And I had somebody who built a business bigger than ours at the time. I said, "Can you just come and have a look at this for me?" And then he basically said, "You just haven't got the processes, the professional processes in place to give your people within your organisation what they actually want from you." And I was like, "Teach me." So we did. And they're not difficult. What's difficult about them is staying disciplined to them.
Yeah. So if I want to work for BOX12, what do you look for? What kind of a person do you look for who will work for you?
So we have our culture is key for us, So, and we do enjoy each other's company. I think they might maybe when I'm not around they might say something. I don't think so. No. I can pick up if they're not happy, but we enjoy each other. We do things right. We work hard. We play hard. We do the right things. So if you're part of the team at BOX12, you just have to be built of that stuff. You've got to be you've got to feed into this culture, which is we all look after each other. We all respect each other, but we also we work hard, and
I've seen that.
We work hard, and we're on a mission. We're on a mission, and we work hard, not at the detriment of your work-life balance and this and the other. We respect people have got a life. We respect that they need holidays. You respect that. We get all of that. So we're realistic in our approach. But it's really important that you're part of a team. You're a team player. And if you're not a team player, it'll be uncomfortable for you and for everybody. Because there aren't any loners in our organisation. Everyone's in it for everyone. Yeah.
So, there's so many questions I want to ask you, and we're going to run out of time. I think this probably is the longest podcast I've shot.
Is it really?
I think so. I'm 100% sure. Right. And I think it's so interesting, because obviously because I've known you for some time. There's so many questions I want to ask. How are you built? How do you do this? Because I've seen you. You're probably one of the best person to go out with, best mate. You're also somebody who knows how to drive the business. I've spoken to some of your ex-employees. Nobody has anything bad to say about you. They would still say, that they would say, fuck man, that was the best time.
Yeah, it's nice.
I love to work there, and the organization was different. I was different, but the place, I love the founders. I love what they're doing, and I know BOX12 will go places. Yeah. And I would say that from we have a lot of friends. I don't know. People would come back, and the way they describe it, right, is that somewhere they also feel they missed out on something, you know, and which is positive, because which basically, you know, makes you believe that, you know, you're onto something very big, you know, you're onto something very big, and people realize that. And that's also to do with the fact that people are passionate about what they do. You know, I still remember when we were at Dubai Muscle Show, and when people came in and, you know, saw this product for the first time, they were absolutely zapped, and they loved the product, and the energy of the team which was there. Even people who came in to visit was like, it was fun.
And it's got to be, right. The balance is it's essential. The balance is it's essential. The balance between work hard. You spend so much of your time around your work colleagues and around the people in your business. If you are not, you know, of course you have peaks and troughs in your day. You know, you have tough jobs.
Yes.
You know, yeah, there you go. Of course you are. Yeah, sorry. But if you're not enjoying, if the balance isn't right, if the gain, you know, of the effort you're putting in doesn't outweigh the challenging stuff, it's not right. Just let's change it up. Let's do something different. Let's think differently. We did a thing with the team when we get together periodically for kind of just fun and laughter, but also there'll be a theme to it, and we'll do a little bit of kind of soul searching stuff. And we did this thing called Life Without Limits, because I think what you can become, because of the way that societal norms are, social norms. You go to work, you do this. I want our people to break that. If they can't, as in practically, because they do have to go to it, but I want them to mentally break free of this lane that they're put in by life. And so we did this whole thing where it was called Life Without Limits, and it was getting the team to break the shackles of financial limitations and geographical limitations, and maybe you think you can't be an astronaut because you're not bright enough. But and we had this whole session, and we were asking all of the team to just break the shackles that they live by daily and think differently. It was just brilliant to listen to some of the things that came out of the team's mouth, the way that they think. If they had no limits, what is it that they would do? And their passions were coming out. And do you know what was really fascinating about that? Is it then meant that their passions could be used within the organisation in some way. Not all of them, but having them feel freer to express what their innate passions are. They do a job because it's a means to an end. But if we can understand you on a level and you allow yourself to think and act differently, how can we embrace that? And can we embrace some of it, which means you're going to get more out of what you're doing in the organisation? It was just fascinating to do that. And that's just, you know, something else, I suppose, as an example of, I don't want to have somebody shove them into silo them, shove them into this particular role, and then suffocate them in the role. If you've got something else to offer, I want to ignite it. It might be that you have to leave us to realise it. I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that, because go and do it. Have a ball. And while you're here, if I've been and we've been the reason why you found your passion, job done for me. You know, it's a different. That's our culture, and if you're going to be part of that, you know, you've got to buy into that. You know.
On that note, Jamie, I think this last message is very deep. People probably need to listen to it again. You know, I think culture is what drives people and drives organizations. Value systems is what makes sure that the organization does what it claims it will do. And I think that's the foundation. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss out on that. And, you know, young entrepreneurs who say, you know, just want to see the end, the means to an end, and the entire journey of making that, you know, making sure that everybody in the organization does well. The organization does well. And the difference between, you know, you're being friends in the organization, being professional, a lot to learn from this podcast. I mean, it's going to be, I'm pretty sure this is probably going to be the most watched podcast.
It's very kind of you.
Thanks, Jamie.
It's been a pleasure as always, buddy. Pleasure as always.
Thanks.